Welcome to Letters from America, a road trip podcast searching for the Swedish heritage within the United States. I'm your host, Martin Van, and today I've parked a Volvo in Lindsborg, in Kansas.
That's correct.
And with me in the Airstream is Ron Michael, who is the director of the Sandzén. Is that Birger Sandzén Memorial?
Birger Sandzén Memorial Gallery.
Yeah, and that's why I'm here.
Great to have you.
Thank you. And I think that we should unravel this man for the people who don't know who he is. And he's an artist, a very productive artist.
Correct.
Lived in the late 1800s to the mid 1950s, something like that.
Right, passed away in 1954.
Yeah. But my first question, because he was born in Sweden, went to school in Sweden and in France, right?
Correct.
But he came here as a young man.
Age 23.
To Lindsborg in Kansas to work at the Bethany School or University.
Right, Bethany College.
Bethany College. And that's my first question. What is it about Bethany College that sort of brought him here?
How in the world did he find it?
Yeah, how in the world did he find it? And also to have that attraction for a young man. Because if we just flash forward a little bit, he stayed there here more or less his entire life on this college.
Really, pretty much.
And that raises a little bit of a question. How could that college sort of pull him out of Sweden at that time also to, in a way, the middle of Kansas?
There's a multitude of ways that he arrived here. So when he was a young man, he used to kind of like to read the wild Western novels that were apparently real popular in Sweden at the time. So he kind of had that romanticized view of the West.
Oh, yeah.
Meaning the Great West. And so that kind of instilled
sort of
something
promotion
in him.
of the West.
Right.
Yeah.
And so then as he got older, he eventually went to study in Stockholm with Anders Zorn and Per Hasselberg and Richard, as I would say, Berg, but I don't think that's correct pronunciation.
Barry.
Richard Berry.
Barry. It's the same. Yeah.
And then eventually went to Paris. And I think when he was in Paris, he met a couple of American students that were studying also with a gentleman named Aman-Jean, who was kind of a French symbolist painter. And so that really kind of increased his interest in America. And then he came home after the time in Paris and read a book. Actually, maybe a little bit before he went to Paris, he'd read a book by Carl Aaron Swenson, who is the founder of Bethany College. And so Sandzén ended up writing Swenson a letter while he was in Paris, asking him if, he could use anybody that could speak multiple languages, teach art. He was also a vocal musician. And so Swenson invited him to come over and begin teaching, as long as he was a good, upstanding citizen and didn't have any major issues, he could come over. And so Sandzén decided in 1894 to make the trek over here and got here one day before classes started and then really kind of spent the rest of his life here. He never really went back, primarily for one of the main reasons was he really intended to spend, like 3 or 4 years here and then go back to Sweden. But I think times were pretty hard in Sweden at that period.
Yeah, at that period.
And not a lot of jobs available, especially for an artist.
No. And that is also the reason for this journey, because that big wave is sort of the origin of what I'm doing today, to sort of investigate from 1850 to 1920, 1930 was a big wave of immigration to this country. But it's still, it's fascinating in a way because I've been driving here. And this is not the first place you come to when you come to America. With all due respect, it's beautiful, but it's not an easy way to get here. So how was Lindsborg at that time? Do you know that? The city
was pretty kind of a bare bones.
It's windy outside today.
Very windy, just kind of like today.
Yeah.
Quite windy. But it was fairly well established because Lindsborg was established in 1869, and then the college was built in 1881. So, they were doing fairly well.
Yeah.
And they had a large main building, so it looked pretty interesting, I'm sure, from an outsider. And then eventually he did meet his wife, his future wife. She was kind of a distant relative who lived down in McPherson, which is 15 miles from here. And I think they talked about going back to Sweden, but it never really happened just because he would have had to take his in-laws and finally found a home here. But I'm sure it was quite the change for him.
Because Lindsborg that is the name of the town. Lindsborg was a Swedish...
Right, it was a Swedish
I wouldn't
community.
say settlement, but almost like a community, right? That a lot of Swedes ended up here in a way, even back then.
Yes, exactly. So a lot of them ended up in this area, and it kind of became a magnet for other Swedish families. There used to be a saying that would say, when people got off the ship at New York, they would see New York and how amazing that was and say, this is New York. Just imagine what Lindsborg must be like. And then they probably got here and like, oh.
That's really funny, actually. But also I think that's very human. We can see it today. I mean, people go where they feel a little bit like home. So if there's a recognition in language, there's a recognition maybe in the food or in the culture, that sort of attracts. You get these sort of clusters of people from different parts of the world that sort of gather together.
And probably just about everybody around here spoke Swedish.
Oh, you
so
think?
That would be make
that's
it more welcoming as well.
And still, when I came into Lindsborg today, you got these iconic symbols of Sweden with a red painted horse and the flags, and you said welcome to it. So that's beautiful. But this man, Birger Sandzén, was extremely productive and did a lot of work here. Is there any way we can sort of fit that into this to sort of, like I said, unravel his way and what he did and what he meant also for the art world as Sweden, America? Because as this journey sort of progresses, I'm looking for footprints for Swedish presence here in America. And to get a museum of your work is probably the best footprint you can ask for.
Yes, definitely.
So there's a reason for the museum. Is there a way to explain why he is so important for this?
Well, certainly during his life, he was incredibly productive. I think I mentioned earlier that, we think he did around 2,800 oil paintings, around 500 watercolors.
That's
and he
crazy,
also did prints. And so I think there's around 33,000 of those out there. So incredibly prolific.
You mean 33,000 that he sort of signed and approved also?
That signed.
Not only sketches, so...
Correct. They were all like editions of this, for example, Läckö Castle was one. And then a lot of scenes around here that would sell either lithographs, block prints, woodcuts, or linoleum cuts, or dry points. And so he was, as an artist, was, fully engaged in working and creating art. It really kind of fed his life. But he also was a full-time teacher as well.
Still at this college, obviously.
So he taught for over 50 years here at Bethany College, and primarily, eventually took over the art department, but still taught languages. So just had a workmanlike attitude and approach to life, but like also promoted,
man, almost.
Definitely a Renaissance man, and really promoted art throughout the state. Helped form groups like the Prairie Printmakers, which was a printmaking group, Prairie Watercolor Painters. He was very active in the Chicago Swedish-American art scene, and he would exhibit in exhibitions up there quite frequently. They had a yearly exhibition. Established another...
Chicago, that's several days on that.
Yeah. So I think, he would, a lot of times would ship his work, but he would go up there on occasion, take the train. Sandzén never learned to drive, so he wasn't, out on the road. So he would either have a driver once cars became more in style, or generally took the train. And so, just really promoted things. And I don't know where he got his energy. Of course, they didn't have TV back in those days.
No.
So he was just a remarkable individual.
Is it like common knowledge that he's Swedish, or is he seen as
I think so. I mean, he's still seen as a Swedish-American artist, but he was pretty Americanized by, probably the 1920s. And really that was kind of the height of his career. He had a couple shows in New York in the early 20s.
Yeah.
And so really became known. And generally most of the major kind of all-encompassing U.S. exhibitions that were held included Sandzén's work, because he was probably the most Kansas, or the most known Kansas painter of the time.
Oh, yeah. And I've seen also motifs in the museum of Swedish places, where because he was born in the I would say southern part, but that's not really true. But almost in the southern part, it's a place called Blidsberg.
Right.
Yeah, which you can pronounce now because we
Blidsberg.
practiced. Because we practiced. And he has motif. Did he paint those in Sweden, or did he paint it out of memory? Did he go back to the Swedish motifs when he got older without visiting Sweden, or did he?
No, he went back 3 times. So most of those motifs come from those return trips. So I'm sure he would do a lot of sketching there and maybe do a little bit of work, a little bit of painting.
And then bring
But
the
I think
sketches.
most of that came back here to be completed. The first trip he took was in 1897, and you don't see a lot of things from that time period. He went with Carl Aaron Swenson, really to kind of
Back to
promote
Sweden.
back to Sweden, to really promote Bethany College and try to get Swedes over here.
Oh yeah.
I think. And then took another trip in 05 and 06, which was a year sabbatical from Bethany. Went back to Sweden, stayed with his brother, who had remained in Sweden. He had
At
2
the
brothers.
in Blidsberg.
No, he actually at that time lived in Asklanda.
Asklanda?
It's north of Lidköping on the peninsula.
Because that I would recognize
No,
that.
no,
Because
I'm sorry.
No.
Asklanda is closer to Blidsberg.
Why I'm
The other
curious
one
about
was
that, because
Rackeby.
that is my birthplace. I'm very close to that. So the
To
Kinnekulle.
Asklanda?
No, to Kinnekulle and
Oh.
Läckö slot.
Right.
Skara, which he's also painted, I think. That is, I wouldn't say walking distance, but it's close.
They're pretty close.
From our porch, we could see Kinnekulle.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So that's pretty. So that's also an interesting thing for me personally, to sort of come here and see this museum for this guy that is. I wouldn't say that he's forgotten, but I would dare to say that he is not spoken of enough in Sweden.
Right.
Yeah. So that's,
I think that's probably the case.
Yeah.
I know the Swedish ambassador is kind of from that general neck of the woods too. So
Yeah.
he was really excited when he came here this fall to
Oh,
realize
yeah.
that Sandzén was from that
Yeah.
territory.
The territory was used to call Skaraborg, which is the Skara, the town, and the,
Right.
the fort of Skara. Speaking about that, I have a thing I want to ask you, to
Okay.
sort of stand in his shoes and see if we can do it with his words, since I think you know him in a way better than anyone.
Yes, I will try.
Yeah, because we are here now. Let's see, Denver. We're somewhere. It doesn't. I'm sorry for Kansas not being marked on the map, but we're somewhere around here, I would say.
Yes.
Could that be right?
Just
Got
about
Dallas.
just about straight
Yeah.
east of Denver.
And Blidsberg is the southern part. It's around here.
Correct.
So if this was where he lived, and this is where his home was, what do you think he would write in a letter from here to there?
Well, I've read a lot of them, and a lot of them are keeping up to date with family and friends.
Oh yeah, so
Writing, because there were a lot of other instructors from that general area that came to teach at Bethany.
Yeah.
And so they would write letters back and forth, updating each other about family issues, friends, current events,
I'm just amazed how productive this man was.
It is. It's remarkable.
Did he ever sleep?
I don't think so.
No, no, but what do you think? If we just play around with that a little bit, imagine you're in his shoes now when you're sitting here talking about his life work. Outside here is a museum of my work in a way. And
right.
And I want to write about
and it's always kind of interesting because even during his lifetime, he really wanted some kind of a gallery or museum. And he was a good friend of Carl Milles. Mm. And so he and Milles had kind of worked on some ideas.
Because Milles was here also.
Milles would visit Sandzén
but not
here.
Work here.
Right. He did not work here. He just would visit. Mm. They met in 1924 when Sandzén returned for his final trip to Sweden. And they met in Stockholm and then formed a fast, really strong friendship after that. And Milles would come over and work at a place called Cranbrook in Michigan. Mm-hmm. And so he and Sandzén would correspond back and forth. And so he always wanted a gallery, but it never really happened during his life.
No.
But Sandzén's son-in-law came from a fairly wealthy Boston family. And so his son-in-law married Margaret, Sandzén's only daughter. Mm-hmm. And once after Sandzén passed away, about 2 years, they really worked to build this gallery. So Pelham,
so that's the origin of
Pelham invested, or used a lot of his funds to help construct the gallery. Because he loved Sandzén as well, so there was a great family connection.
In a way? That is all.
Pretty much. I mean, most artists, if they're going to have some kind of a gallery built, either have to be very wealthy on their own accord, or somehow somebody comes in and drops some money and helps with the construction of that. So we're very fortunate here in Lindsborg to have a gallery where we can showcase his work.
It's a beautiful place also. But if we go back to the letter, what do you think he would write? I got more questions, but I wanted to stop here.
Mom, Dad, you'll never guess what is in Lindsborg now.
Oh, yeah.
A gallery dedicated to my work and, more importantly, the work of other artists. Because he really was instrumental in, certainly he enjoyed working and doing his own thing. That was a good
letter. I really liked it.
Really wanted to promote other people more so than just himself.
Oh, yeah. Because that is my question as well. I mean, what has his work meant to the art development? Since he was also a teacher and he had this very distinct style, in a way, I would say that he changed the color palette for how you see. There's a lot of nature in his motif, and you change the color palette by, in a way, extracting light that is an experience, not a vision. You sort of you experience the feeling of that light. It goes from pink to purple and all that. But still, when you watch his work, it feels like naturalistic. But if you look at the details of the colors, it's very pastel-y. So it's a very distinct style, especially in his later works.
And like I tell people, when you look at his paintings up close, it looks kind of like cake frosting, or it's been smeared with fingers. But you back away and your eye optically blends those colors. And Sandzén was a true master of that, of letting one color work with the other to give a sense of depth in the painting, but also a vibrancy that you really couldn't get just trying to put paint on a palette and then slap it straight on a painting. So Sandzén was a true genius in that regard.
So what do you think? Can you see if we talk about footprints, this massive footprint of a museum, but also the little footprints, can you see his work sort of walk away into other artists' work even today?
A little bit, yeah. For example, we have an exhibition right now of an artist that came and really was not familiar with Sandzén, but she was so taken by his approach, coloration, that she tried to incorporate some similar motifs into her own work, in a totally different way. An interpretation of what he was doing. And so it's certainly out there, and he's still a highly regarded artist. There are collectors throughout the United States and maybe a few in Sweden that still collect his
Yeah, I
work?
can think of one, actually.
Because I know Bukowski's auction house in Sweden occasionally will handle paintings that probably, they're generally older paintings before he got to America. But yeah, so it's still kind of all over.
There is a hotel and the owner in Skara, actually, close to this area that we're talking about. And the owner of that hotel is Zorn collection, which makes it a little bit abstract because he really wants the people to see them.
Right.
So if you visit a hotel, half of the hotel is a Zorn exhibition. It's just weird.
Oh, how did I miss that?
Yeah.
That sounds great.
You should go there next time. It's called the Jula Hotel in Skara.
Okay.
And it's just an amazing thing because it's such a generous thing to do. In my perspective, you got this hotel and you know, it's a hotel for people who visit Skara. But then if you just take a left, there's almost like a museum, a Zorn exhibition with just Zorn paintings. So he would be interested in this, I think.
And actually at the Skara school, they have an old boarding house where they still have a Sandzén room. Because that's where the Sandzén brothers, he had two brothers who were older and stayed in that room. And then Birger was the last one to stay there. But they still have this little room dedicated to the Sandzéns with little old Sandzén painting and some of the furniture.
I am not a painter, but I still feel that there's a circle here that's getting close because I'm here in Kansas talking to you, Ron, about a guy that sort of lived before me in that same neighborhood, in places that I've been since I was a child. And now I'm here, and he sort of made this mark in Kansas and in America. It's just, it's a weird feeling in a way, too.
Yeah, I'm sure. It's kind of transcends time and space.
Yeah, exactly. When I meet people on this journey, like you said, he went back to Sweden like that was nothing, but that probably took him 2 months to.
It was amazing. It was always by ship.
Yeah, and then he stayed in Sweden, and then he decided, I'm going back again. And it was just such a different lifestyle in a way, and to do that, to live that life, and still be this productive that I see that he was. That's really impressive.
Yeah, and I know a couple times he thought about going back to Sweden. I think he applied for a job at the Gothenburg museum, but I don't think he got that.
No.
He kind of looked, but there was never anything quite strong enough to pull him back home.
No. But it's also if you put a lot of work into your life, you get a lot of network, and you get you're like his students, and that is life. It doesn't matter where it is.
Right.
It is life.
Yeah.
So, Ron Michael, thank you. It was a pleasure
my pleasure.
It was a pleasure to get to know this Birger from
Blidsberg. And more so, Järpås.
The Järpås? Järpås. Oh, okay.
Do you know where that's at?
Yeah. No.
You figured out where I was talking about, I think.
You're welcome anytime to visit. And I will show the museum in Skara. And we can practice all the letters, all the vocals, the vowels. How do you say the vowels? The vowels, yeah. Thank you.
Oh, you bet. Thank you.
It was a pleasure.
You have listened to Letters from America, a weekly road trip podcast celebrating the Swedish heritage in the United States. Produced in collaboration with the Embassy of Sweden in Washington, D.C., Volvo Cars USA, Volvo Trucks USA, and Airstream.